routers, Linksys? Hey everybody, how's it going? Yesterday I did a video regarding a feature in iOS 15 that kind of raised the eyebrow of a lot of privacy experts because it appeared from the way this is written that they would be scanning what was on your device, and if it matched what was in a database, then they could alert the authorities. This is something that had a lot of people, including me, running for the hills, for people who just are at the end of their rope when it comes to companies collecting your information, governments collecting your information, and particularly with people like me who have been using platforms like YouTube where you are essentially managed by machine learning and AI that often get things so insanely wrong, it's just beyond a joke. We're just at the end of their rope with stuff like this, and we're quite skeptical. This had a lot of people on edge. What I wanted to do here is read you the other side of this and kind of get your thoughts. What do you think? And give this a chance to be heard, because I haven't seen this guy's website almost anywhere, and this is an incredibly well thought through, rational discussion of it by John Gruber at daringfireball.net. So what I'm going to ask of you, before you thumbs down, comment, thumbs up, can you just do me a favor with this one video and listen to the entire thing and then post what you think in the comments down below. So this is from daringfireball.net by John Gruber. Apple's new child safety initiatives and the slippery slope. It says here, Apple yesterday announced 3 new child safety initiatives. First, new communications tools will enable parents to play a more informed role in helping their children navigate communication online. The Messages app will use on-device machine learning to warn about sensitive content, while keeping private communications unreadable by Apple. Next, iOS and iPadOS will use new applications of cryptography to help limit the spread of CSAM online, while designing for user privacy. CSAM detection will help Apple provide valuable information to law enforcement on collections of CSAM and iCloud photos. Finally, updates to Siri and Search provide parents and children expanded information and help if they encounter unsafe situations. Siri and Search will also intervene when users try to search for CSAM-related topics. CSAM stands for Child Sexual Abuse Material, aka child pornography. People familiar with the lingo seem to pronounce it CSAM. Another acronym to know, NCMEC. NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's the nonprofit organization founded and funded by the U.S. government that maintains the database of known CSAM. The third initiative, updates to Siri and Search, is the easiest to understand and, I think, uncontroversial. The first two, however, seem not well understood and are justifiably receiving intense scrutiny from privacy advocates. My first advice is to read Apple's own high-level description of the features, which ends with links to detailed technical documentation regarding the encryption and techniques Apple is employing in the implementations, and technical assessments from 3 leading researchers in cryptography and computer vision. The Messages feature is specifically only for children in a shared iCloud family account. If you're an adult, nothing is changing with regards to any photos you send or receive through Messages. And if you're a parent with children whom the feature could apply to, you'll need to explicitly opt out in order to enable the feature. It will not turn on automatically when your devices are updated to iOS 15. If a child sends or receives and chooses to view an image that triggers a warning, the notification is sent from the child's device to the parent's devices. Apple itself is not notified, nor is law enforcement. These parental notifications are only for children 12 or younger in a family iCloud account. Parents do not have the option of receiving notifications for teenagers, although teenagers can receive content warnings on their devices. It's also worth pointing out that it's a feature of the Messages app, not the iMessage service. For one thing, this means it applies to images sent or received via SMS, not just iMessage. But more importantly, it changes nothing about the end-to-end encryption inherent to the iMessage protocol. The image processing to detect sexually explicit images happens before for sending or after for receiving the endpoints. It seems like a good feature with few downsides. The EFF disagrees. The CSAM detection for iCloud Photo Library is more complicated, delicate, and controversial, but it only applies to images being sent to the iCloud Photo Library. If you don't use iCloud Photo Library, no images on your devices are fingerprinted. But of course, most of us do use iCloud Photo Library. So something important to note here is that by the way that they claim the feature works, it only affects you if you choose to use the iCloud Photo Library to back up your devices to the cloud, not if you are only having the pictures stored on your device. mentioned above that Apple's child safety page for these new features has links to technical assessments from outside experts. In particular, I thought the description of Apple's CSAM detection from Benny Pincus, a cryptography researcher at Bar Ilan University in Israel, was instructive. My research in cryptography has spanned more than 25 years. I initiated the applied research on privacy, preserving computation, an area of cryptography that makes it possible for multiple participants to run computations while concealing their private inputs. In particular, I pioneered research on private set intersection, PSI. The Apple PSI system solves a very challenging problem of detecting photos with CSAM content while keeping the contents of all non-CSAM photos encrypted and private. Photos are only analyzed on users' devices. Each photo is accompanied by a safety voucher that includes information about the photo, protected by 2 layers of encryption. This information includes a neural hash and a visual derivative of the photo. Only if the Apple Cloud identifies that a user is trying to upload a significant number of photos with CSAM content, the information associated with those specific photos can be opened by the cloud. If a user uploads less than a predefined threshold number of photos containing CSAM content, then the information associated with all of these photos of the user is kept encrypted, even if some of these photos contain CSAM content. It is important to note that no information about non-CSAM content can be revealed by the Apple PSI system. This design is accompanied by security proofs that I have evaluated and confirmed. For obvious reasons, this feature is not optional. If you use iCloud Photo Library, the images in your library will go through this fingerprinting. This includes the images already in your iCloud Photo Library, not just newly uploaded images after the feature ships later this year. To opt out of this fingerprint matching, you'll need to disable iCloud Photo Library. So, if you disable iCloud Photo Library backups, this is something that, again, assuming that they're being honest about everything, is not something that would concern you. A big source of confusion seems to be what fingerprinting entails. This was one of the questions I had when I was reading that article yesterday. Fingerprinting is not content analysis. It's not determining what is in a photo. It's just a way of assigning unique identifiers, essentially long numbers, to photos, in a way that will generate the same fingerprint identifier if the same image is cropped, resized, or even changed from color to grayscale. It's not a way of determining whether 2 photos, the user's local photo and an image in the CSAM database from NCMEC, are of the same subject. It's a way of determining whether they are 2 versions of the same image. If I take a photo of, say, my car, and you take a photo of my car, the images should not produce the same fingerprint, even though there's photos of the same car in the same location. And in the same way that real-world fingerprints can't be backwards engineered to determine what the person they belong to looks like, these fingerprints cannot be backwards engineered to determine anything at all about the subject matter of the photographs. So the way he is explaining it here, it sounds like it's pretty much designed to tell if, did you turn a JPEG into a PNG to get around it being an exact hash of the file, rather than being able to tell this is Mr. Clinton the cat versus Blackberry the cat. The messages feature for children in iCloud family accounts is doing content analysis to try to identify sexually explicit photos, but is not checking image fingerprint hashes against the database of CSAM fingerprints. The CSAM detection for images uploaded to iCloud Photo Library is not doing content analysis and is only checking fingerprint hashes against the database of known CSAM fingerprints. So, to name one common innocent example, if you have photos of your kids in the bathtub or otherwise frolicking in a state of undress, no content analysis is performed that tries to detect that, hey, this is a picture of an undressed child, which is what makes the fact that this CSAM detection for images in iCloud Photo Library combined with the messages feature for children in iCloud family accounts being announced at the same time is a way of creating epic confusion among idiots like me that are going to read this and go, WTF. Continuing on. If you have photos of your kids in the bathtub or otherwise frolicking in a state of undress, no content analysis is performed that tries to detect that, hey, this is a picture of an undressed child. Fingerprints from images of similar content are not themselves similar. 2 photographs of the same subject should produce entirely dissimilar fingerprints. The fingerprints of your own photos of your kids are no more likely to match the fingerprint of an image in NCMEC CSAM database than is a photo of a sunset or a fish. The database will be part of iOS 15 and is a database of fingerprints, not images. Apple does not have the images in NCMEC's library of known CSAM, and in fact cannot. NCMEC is the only organization in the US that is legally permitted to possess these photos. If you don't use iCloud Photo Library, none of this applies to you. If you do use iCloud Photo Library, this detection is only applied to the images in your photo library that are synced to iCloud, meaning, again, if they are telling the truth about how the system works, that means that if you are not syncing your photo library to iCloud, that this, at this point in time, will not affect you. If with ifs, and I have my particular anxieties on that. You're welcome to say that those are irrational, but if. Furthermore, one match isn't enough to trigger any action. There's a threshold, some number of matches against the CSAM database that must be met. Apple isn't saying what the threshold number is, but for the sake of argument, let's say the threshold is 10. With 10 or fewer matches, nothing happens, and nothing can happen on Apple's end. Only after 11 matches, threshold plus 1, will Apple be alerted. Even then, someone at Apple will investigate by examining the contents of the safety vouchers that will accompany each photo in the iCloud photo library. These vouchers are encrypted such that they can only be decrypted on the server side if threshold plus 1 matches have been identified. From Apple's own description, using another technology called threshold secret sharing, the system ensures the contents of the safety vouchers cannot be interpreted by Apple unless the iCloud photo account crosses a threshold of known CSAM content. The threshold is set to provide an extremely high level of accuracy and ensures that less than a 1 in a trillion chance per year, or in other words, the chances that Cuomo will actually resign willingly, of incorrectly flagging a given account. I repeat, the threshold is set to provide an extremely high level of accuracy and ensures less than a 1 in 1 trillion chance per year of incorrectly flagging a given account. Even if your account is against those 1 in a trillion odds, if Apple's math is correct, incorrectly flag for exceeding the threshold, someone at Apple will have to examine the contents of the safety vouchers for those flagged images before reporting the incident to law enforcement. Apple is cryptographically only able to examine the safety vouchers for those images whose fingerprint matched items in the CSAM database. The vouchers include a visual derivative of the image, basically a low-resolution version of the image. If innocent photos are somehow wrongly flagged, Apple's reviewers should notice. All of these features are fairly grouped together under a child safety umbrella, but I can't help but wonder if it was a mistake to announce them together. Many people are clearly conflating them, including those reporting on the initiative for the news media, e.g. the Washington Post never met an Apple story that couldn't be painted in the worst possible light. Read Albergatti's report, the first 3 of which paragraphs are wrong and the headline for which is misleading. Apple is prying into iPhones to find sexual predators, but privacy activists worry governments could weaponize the feature. It's also worth noting that fingerprint hash matching against MCMEC's database is already happening on the other major cloud hosting services and social networks. From the New York Times' report on Apple's initiative, U.S. law requires tech companies to flag cases of child sexual abuse to the authorities. Apple has historically flagged fewer cases than other companies. Last year, for instance, Apple reported 265 cases to the NCMEC, while Facebook reported 20.3 million, according to the Center Statistics. I'll repeat that because it's important. Apple has historically flagged fewer cases than other companies. Last year, for instance, Apple reported 265 cases to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, while Facebook reported 20.3 million, according to the Center Statistics. That enormous gap is due in part to Apple's decision not to scan for such material, citing the privacy of its users. So either A, there's way more pedos on Facebook than using Apple products, or B, Apple is prying into your stuff far less than other companies. The difference going forward is that Apple will be matching fingerprints against NCMEC's database client-side, not server-side, but I suspect others will follow suit, including Facebook and Google, with client-side fingerprint matching for this end-to-end encrypted services. There is no way to perform this matching server-side with any E2EE service. Between the sender and receiver endpoints, the server has no way to decrypt the images with end-to-end encryption, which in turn makes me wonder if Apple sees this initiative as a necessary first step towards providing end-to-end encryption for iCloud Photo Library and iCloud device backups. Apple has long encrypted all iCloud data that can be encrypted, both in transit and on server, but device backups, photos, and iCloud Drive are among the things that are not end-to-end encrypted. Apple has the keys to decrypt them, and can be compelled to do so by law enforcement. In January 2020, Reuters, Reuters reported that Apple in 2018 dropped plans to use end-to-end encryption for iCloud backups at the behest of the FBI. Apple Inc. dropped plans to let iPhone users fully encrypt backups of their devices in the company's iCloud service after the FBI complained that the move would harm investigations. 6 sources familiar with the matter told Reuters. The tech giant's reversal about 2 years ago has not previously been reported, but it shows how much Apple has been willing to help U.S. law enforcement and intelligence agencies, despite taking a harder line in high-profile legal disputes with the government and casting itself as a defender of its customers' information. Whether Reuters' report that Apple caved to FBI pressure on E2E iCloud backups is accurate or not, I don't know. But I do know that privacy advocates, including myself, would love to see Apple enable E2EE for everything in iCloud, and that law enforcement agencies around the world would not. This fingerprint matching for CSAM could pave the way for a middle ground if Apple unveils end-to-end encryption for iCloud photos and backups in the future. In such a scenario, Apple would have no cryptographic ability to turn your backups or entire photo library over to anyone, but they would be able to flag and report iCloud accounts whose photo libraries exceed the threshold for CSAM database fingerprint matches, including the visual derivatives of the matching photos, all without Apple ever seeing or being able to see your original photos on iCloud. It's also possible that Apple has simply permanently shelved plans to use end-to-end encryption for all iCloud data. No surprise, they're not saying. But it feels very plausible to me that Apple views this privacy-protecting CSAM detection as a necessary first step to broadening the use of end-to-end encryption. In short, if these features work as described and only as described, there's almost no cause for concern. In an interview with the New York Times, for its Afro-linked report on this initiative, Apple's chief privacy engineer said, "If you're storing a collection of CSAM material, yes, this is bad for you. But for the rest of you, this is no different. By all accounts, that is fair and true. But the if these features work as described, and only as described, is the rub. That if is the whole ballgame. If you discard alarmism from critics of this initiative who clearly do not understand how the features work, that's me, you're still left with completely legitimate concerns from trustworthy experts about how these features could be abused or misused in the future. Besides trustworthy experts, that's me. What happens, for example, if China demands that it provide its own database of image fingerprints for use with this system, a database that would likely include images related to political dissent, tank men, say, or any of the remarkable litany of comparisons showing the striking resemblance of Xi Jinping to Winnie the Pooh? The slippery slope argument is a legitimate concern. Apple's response is simply that they'll refuse. Again, from Jack Nikas's report for The Times. Mr. Green said that he worried that such a system could be abused because it showed law enforcement and governments that Apple now had a way to flag certain content on a phone while maintaining its encryption. Apple has previously argued to the authorities that encryption prevents it from retrieving certain data. What happens when other governments ask Apple to use this for other purposes, Mr. Green asked. What's Apple going to say? Dismissed those concerns, saying that safeguards are in place to prevent abuse of the system and that Apple would reject any such demands from a government. We will inform them that we did not build the thing they're thinking of, he said. Will Apple actually flatly refuse any and all such demands? If they do, it's all good. If they don't, and these features creep into surveillance for things like political dissent, copyright infringement, LGBT imagery, or adult pornography, anything at all beyond irrefutable CSAM, it'll prove disastrous to Apple's reputation for privacy protection. The EFF seems to see slipping down such a slope as inevitable, and admittedly, as did I. We shall see. The stakes are incredibly high, and Apple knows it. Whatever you do, think of Apple's decision to implement these features. They're not doing it lightly. 1. Albert Gotti's opening, that was the citation part, and I will leave this for you all to read. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think that this was a very well written through take of the entire situation, and I think it's important that you see this side of it as well, rather than just my side of, well, I'm afraid of this slipping into something horrible. You should see what someone else has to say, who's clearly knowledgeable on the subject. So check out his site, daringfireball.net. The gentleman's name is John Gruber, and it was an interesting post. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And again, obviously, I probably should have edited this into the beginning of the video, and if I had half a brain, I would have. I would just kindly appreciate if you would actually listen to or read this entire article prior to leaving a knee-jerk reaction comment. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.
Is there a fundamental right
you want to
go
to work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. Right? You're working.
I am.
You're an essential worker. So go take a job as an essential worker.
But the people aren't hiring because of the
No, there are
pandemic.
people hiring. You can get a job as an essential worker. So now you can go to work and you can be an essential worker and you're not going to kill anyone.